Okay, so yesterday I released a video about what are my favourite guitars to play sort of blues lead through, and it's the start of a whole series of videos where I'm going to be playing in the mix. So I've made a backing track, I'm going to make some other backing tracks as well soon, and as opposed to the last couple of years when I started playing and I was only just playing in isolation, I thought now's the time I'm going to start playing always in the mix, hear what the different guitars do, different frequencies, different pedals and amps, and how to set them. I think it's going to be a great sort of discovery for me. And I started yesterday with some guitars through my Lazy J J10 Tweed amp, and I said I'm going to keep the amp setting all the way through. For me, that was a valid experiment for myself because a couple of you complained that, well, obviously some of the guitars aren't going to shine and some of them will, just depending on the guitar. And that's where I wanted to start. Okay, I wanted to see, by playing, so if you haven't seen it, the Telecaster and the Stratocaster sort of underwhelmed me. Clearly, you know, they were very scooped sounding, didn't have enough oomph behind them, not enough sustain and saturation, and yet the humbucker guitars, I think, sounded great, especially the Les Paul and the ES345. So, what's great for me from that is, just by doing that, I discovered what it is about the Tele and the Strat that I need to emphasize or whatever. So it was a sort of learning thing for me. What I've done today is taken 3 of the guitars that I don't think I did justice to, the Telecaster, the Stratocaster and the SG. And this time I'm gonna fully set the amp up for each guitar. And for the Telecaster and the Strat, I'll show you exactly what I've done and why I've done it in that process. So again, I'm using the Lazy J, and this is a Tweed Deluxe amp, basically. It's just a half-size one. So it used to be the J20, well, it still makes the J20, which is the proper deluxe size, but someone asked for a half-size one, and so he made the J10. And actually, for studio, home, and small gig use, you get, I think, the best out of this size of amp. So let's hear very quickly the Strat, the Tele, and the SG from yesterday, just 10 seconds of each, to remind us of what I think I didn't get right. So I think particularly the Telecaster guitar there didn't come across great. It was really scooped and hollow sounding. Just didn't have enough oomph or sustain for me. The Strat, it was a really sweet sound, especially when you weren't playing with a backing track, but in a live venue for sure, that just would not have enough power to sort of wake your audience up and remind them that you're doing something. And then the SG, again, it needs more thickness, a bit more sustain, something to let it growl, and also in the neck position to make it a bit sweeter. So you'll see I'll play around with that character when it comes to the SG part. But let's jump straight into what I've done with the Telecaster. I'll do the playing clip first, and then I'll explain how I did that with the amp. Here are the settings for the Danocaster, and I thought I'd just let you in on why they're a certain way. Yesterday, in the last video, I'd sort of set the amp all one way, as I mentioned before. This time I'm going to set it differently for each guitar. So this is just the attenuator, basically allowing me to turn the volume down, and it does a decent job. It doesn't have a lot of sensitivity. It's more like when it's halfway or a quarter of the way it does something, but the amp keeps its tone, which is so important, and the feel. Okay, the tone on a sort of deluxe tweed type amp, it depends where your volume settings are as to how sensitive it is. So you can whack it up quite high, it doesn't do so much past a certain range. But what's most important for the Telly and other single coil guitars is it's got this mid boost. So I've got the mid boost in, which I think makes a huge difference compared to yesterday. You can hear the guitar sounded fuller and smoother as well. And then I've also jumped both the channels. The reason for that is I'm using this volume, the bright volume. It's on 11. If you go anything above that, you get a lot of sag and wallow, and that's a known thing. Now, I've jumped the channels. Even if I didn't jump them, they're two interactive volumes, and it doesn't work in a way that you might understand unless you've heard a bit about it. If you don't have it jumped, then this volume, as you increase it, will have different effects as it goes round, but at a certain point, let's say 6 or 7, as it goes up, it will actually start to attenuate the volume down. So, and it adds some sustain and some bottom end. But if you have it jumped, it has a slightly different effect. It's hard to explain, but in this case, it's filling out the tone. If I took the jump cable out, it wouldn't make a massive difference. It's just slight. It makes a bigger difference when it's at the top end. If it's not jumped, and you turn it all the way up, the volume will drop substantially. If it is jumped and you turn it all the way up, it won't jump down substantially in volume. So I've twiddled with it a lot, and these were the settings that gave this particular Telly some growl and thickness in the bridge, and more lovely mid smooth neck with a bit of it's not so scooped, so therefore it comes through way better in the mix. Right, I'm going to set it up for a Strat in a second. I'll show you what I've done. So I hope that made sense. I feel like that was a much better tone for the Telly. In future videos, as I mentioned yesterday in the previous video, we're going to start to use pedals, in the mix and exploring different pedals and everything. And I think for the Lazy J, this would be a great bass tone to start putting pedals on top of. It has the tone I want it to have. I probably need a clean boost and then something to just kick the drive a little bit more every so often, for lead. And that's ultimately what I want to do, is to have a boost and an overdrive pedal. So we'll play around with that when it comes to the time. Now I'm going to set up the Strat sound. I'm sorry, the recording on this is not the best. It's a new angle and way of recording I was trying to play around with. It's a little bit noisy. My microphone is really near the amp. So I'm sorry about that. If I do it again, I'll try and do it in a slightly different way. But I hope this helps to see how I'm going to set up the amp for the Strat. Okay, let's just hear how this was set for the Telecaster. Okay, so it's got that nice overdrive, but it's a little bit too much and it's a bit dark. Let's hear it in the bridge. That's quite good because it's got a bit of thickness, but if we just take out the mid boost just to see what difference it makes. And with it again. So the mid boost might be too much, but we'll just turn down this volume for a minute and that one. Let's see what happens. Turn the brightness up. If we just turn this volume up as well, let's see what happens. So if I take out, we can see what happens. I think it's better without the mid boost because that sort of makes it a lot less stratty and a lot flatter because it takes away all the scoop. So let's try it now with the jumps. I think that's it. I think it's got saturation and fullness, but without the mid boost, it still maintains that good Strat character that you want. A good Strat, you know, it's got rounded tone, a little bit of scoop. There's a fair bit of bottom end, which could be coming from, you know, when you turn the volume up on here, you do get more bottom end. Let's see if we can take that out. Yeah, that sounds good. Right, let's go for it. You know, I think that gave me what I wanted for the Strat from this particular amp. It had a bit more sustain, so I could hold on to notes. It was a bit more sort of juiciness. The whole tone was just filled in a bit more, and it was just pushed, you know, a bit more overdriven than it was in the previous video. I still think I'd want a booster pedal or a light overdrive for when I do play leads, but it would again try and be a transparent overdrive because I like this tone. Of course, I can play around with fuzzes as well, which I particularly like with Strats compared to tellies, for example. So that'll be a fun thing we'll do soon as well. Right, the other guitar that I wasn't 100% happy with before was the SG. I just don't think I gave it the best chance. I found it a little bit, I don't know, upper mid and bright, and I wanted it to have a bit more juiciness and a bit more sweetness. I know some people don't like those sort of terms for guitar, but I think for some of us they make sense. A bit more lower mids, shall I say, to sort of fill it in. And a bit more sustain or grunt. What I've actually done with this one is turn the attenuator off so it's at full volume and then pulled back slightly on the volumes. That gave me a sort of bit more natural, okay, I can't get scientific because I don't really know exactly, but it feels like the speaker and the cabinet resonate a bit more because of the higher volume overall. But I didn't need to have the channels quite as driven. You know, the guitar sort of can do the work, but I pulled back slightly on the volumes and it's less compressed at the top end, but by being louder overall, it filled in the lower mids. Let's just hear and see if it worked. Oh, on this one, I didn't get one single take that I loved or that showed what I wanted to show, so I've put together a couple of different takes. Yeah, so overall, I think I improved the SG's character there a bit. As I said, a bit more lower mids. It still doesn't sustain a lot. That is what this guitar is like. I really think of it as somewhere between a Telecaster and a Les Paul. You know, it has characters of both of them. I think that gives you something different compared to a lot of other guitars that I really enjoy. I'm wondering when we move on to other amps, you know, maybe like the Rift Ainsley Lister, which is more Marshally, if that might suit this guitar a bit more. But overall, really enjoyed that. Having said all of this, the order from the previous video in which I liked the guitars would stay roughly the same. No, it would stay the same. I think for the Telecaster, I'm going to use my Broadcaster next time. I think it's just more suited to sort of single lead line blues. This Danocaster is not a hot guitar at all. So I really do enjoy it. I'll tell you what, I'll do a comparison video, Broadcaster versus Danocaster, to see what's going on there and maybe what pedals might bring the Danocaster up, because it's sort of more dynamic at the lower volumes. It has an innate character that I prefer to the Broadcaster, but it can't get as hot and as big at the top end when I need it to. But yeah, this is again part of this In the Mix series that I'm doing, which I'll continue for several weeks, if not months, where we, you know, try and build tones into the mix and make it all work together. I need to go and work on some new backing tracks. You're still probably going to hear this one for a few more videos. It takes me a bit of time, but I've been enjoying playing with it. And oh, I haven't mentioned my giveaway for a few videos. That's of this white protein pedal by Brown Amplification. I love this pedal. I particularly love the blue side, which is a blues breaker. The other side is a Nobles ODR1. But here's the awesome thing is they've donated this pink one for me to sell for my charity project, the Pink Guitar Project, which is to raise money for breast cancer in light of my wife having breast cancer. We're doing a load of things from making a couple of pink guitars to having a bunch of pink pedals donated to be sold later in the year. I will do another video about the proteins soon because although I think they are basically identical, in size they're totally not identical. That's because this is the side loading one and this is the top loading one. But I never really before got into using both sides at the same time. As soon as I did that, I suddenly realized that the green side of it is something really cool to work with the other side, and I want to show you what that's like. So we'll do that soon. Anyway, I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Oh, no, forget that. I didn't tell you. If you want to win this white pedal, you need to subscribe to the channel and comment anywhere in the world. I'll send it. I think this is my 4th or 5th giveaway. I really enjoy doing them, and that'll be when I hit 7,500 subs. You can see I've got out of the routine of saying it because I couldn't remember what to say there. But now you know. Right, see you next time.